Hello and welcome to Juicy Crimes. I'm really excited for my guest today. She is back to come into our studio. You may recognize her because she has really been all over social media in your expertise. Dr. Leslie Dobson, welcome back to Juicy Crimes. Wow. I mean, I was so excited to have you booked just to talk to you more. But then when this latest story broke, another sexual crime in the TV family, the Duggars, happened, I was like, I need your expertise on this.
It's so fucked up.
I'm just going to give a little background for people because I didn't really cover the Duggars as far as a TV show that they would come across my TV and I thought that she was weird, the mother, with her little weird voice. And she's like, well, the Lord says that as a wife, you need to do whatever your husband wants you to be. And you should always be supportive and energetic and excited to meet his wishes. I saw a video like that, which is basically like never turn down sex. You know, you are there in the Bible. You are there to serve him, to make his life easy and beneficial and da-da-da. And so they had these 19 kids and it was called 18 and Counting, then 19 and Counting. And it ran all the way up until 2015 when the one son, Josh, the older one, it came out that he had molested his sisters. His parents knew. They eventually kind of went to the police, but then the time limit had run out. So they had kept it quiet. I don't recall how it came out in 2015 because he didn't get in trouble for it at that point.
There were anonymous tips, and I'm still not sure who all the tips were, about child porn, which we shouldn't call child porn, child abuse material.
No, but that was after. I'm talking about the 2015. So Josh, who is now in prison for 12. So let's talk about the same person, Josh. So what I'm talking about is he was found and the sister said, yes, he did touch us and things like that. We forgive him. He's our brother. And that's finally when TLC said, okay, we're going to stop this. And they had numerous spinoffs with some of the other family, some of the older kids that had gotten married and had their own kids. Then that same Josh got married to this girl, Anna, and went on to have 7 kids. She was part of the weird religion. What's the religion called? Do you call it?
IBL.
There's initials for it.
Yeah.
It's not LDS. Not Later Day Saints.
It's a cult.
It's like ID something, IDF or something.
It's about 7 principles of their diluted misinterpretation of biblical scriptures. It's all just such bullshit.
Well, then he got married and there was a scandal that came out in the tabloids that he was on Ashley Madison. And there was a woman who said, I met with him, or maybe she was also a sex worker. She had sex with him. Okay, fine, whatever. She was an adult. Then it came out while he was working at the car dealership that on his computer had child porn. And he was getting it and sharing it. I don't think he was producing it, but he was getting it and sharing it. And then he got 12 years. And the first day that he could possibly be out among us is 2032, somewhere in there that year.
And the way he stored that porn, I hate to use the word porn because that feels so adult, but the way he stored the abuse material and
how did he store it?
And there were snuff films.
Oh,
so basically he had a separate. He split his hard drive in half, so he had to basically log out of a portion of his computer, log back in. It was very savvy, very savvy how he hid all this. But the biggest thing was he had the Daisy video.
What is the Daisy video?
And I don't want anyone to look this up. I don't want, for this poor girl's life, she's still alive. I don't want anyone to see it. But it was basically this sick fuck who was filming an 18-month-old baby in the Philippines and had 2 Filipino women abuse her so brutally. It's one of the worst. They couldn't even show it to the jury. They showed a portion of it, but it was physical abuse, burning, cutting, hot wax, and then he engaged and started sexually harming the baby.
The man that filmed it.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he got like 200 years in prison.
In the Philippines.
In the Philippines, yeah. The Duggar had that fucking
So then
video.
those videos then get shared. And this is what I think is so weird. And I said this on another case that I talked about along the way, is the sharing of this sick material, the communities of pedos. I would think if I was a sick fuck, okay, even if I had a weird thing that I was into, I would want to keep that secret. Why do you think that is such? Because so many people get caught, because they receive the material and then they share it to their pedo friend. Why is there this sharing? Do you think it's because the sick people want to feel more normal? Is that part of the joy that they're sharing it with other people? What do you think that is?
Well, I think money is a huge part, right? If you're producing it and selling it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he actually made money off it, but yeah, they're buddies, they're friends. They want everyone to enjoy what they're enjoying. They're sick, twisted fucking morons who like to diddle the same shit and look at the same disgusting material and get off on it.
So Josh Duggar, well, he's the father of 7, already got publicly known for molesting his sisters. He then has this sick material and he's storing it. And was he also sharing it?
I would imagine, yes.
Yeah.
I would imagine, and I don't remember that part of the trial, but I would imagine they run in groups, right? Like, and how did he get that Daisy video, right? So it's 4chan, it's 8chan, it's all dark web shit, but.
And so in these cases, when it is that they're in possession of it, because it's like, there's certain, I've listened to other podcasts and stuff about this podcast called Betrayal. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's very good. And every season they have like a new person who's been betrayed. And now, originally it was that this guy was a massive cheater, and he also had like, girls at his high school girls that he got with. But now, like the last few seasons have been so many that the woman finds out that this is what her husband has been doing. And it's like the police knock on the door and it's like they know, and she's just like, what? And sometimes, and in most cases, it's interesting that like a lot of these cases are not them actually touching a child, though. I mean, doesn't make it's still horrific.
Yeah.
Because it's still exploiting the child. But in this day and age, this digital age, like this kind of thing didn't exist back, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's like where you could see it and enjoy it and whatever and exploit it without actually having a child in your basement. Right. And I think that's what's crazy. And then also like the defense of that, I assume, is just like, oh, he didn't know it was on there. He didn't know what he was getting. Is that what it always is, kind of?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Like, oh, someone was sending it to me and I didn't know what I was opening. Right. You've got like 12,000 images and you now have a search history and we see your Discord chats. And
so so he must have had all of that in order to get these 12 years. It was not, I inadvertently opened up an attachment to come to a birthday party, and it was a sick video.
No, he had thumbnails, videos, and he had a sophisticated manner of hiding them. Like it took the DOJ time to even sort through his hidden drives.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he goes off to do 12 years in prison. His wife, Anna, who has the 7 kids, she, I think, moves with the parents. Bob and what's the mom's name? Do you remember? I don't know. The mom and
Billy
dad.
Bob. I don't know.
But yeah, it's like Billy Bob and whatever her name is, and she's still wearing her wedding ring out, and she is probably visiting him or whatnot. The other son, then Joseph Duggar, he is younger. He was just caught over the weekend and arrested. He admitted to molesting a girl. She's now 14, but on a trip to, I think, somewhere in Florida, Panama or something. In Florida, they were on a trip, and I would assume the families were friends or something. And he had her sit on his lap. She was 9 at the time. Now she's 14. And also he sat her next to him and put a blanket over their laps and was doing things to her in her private parts that, is a molestation. And so I guess she then finally had the bravery to share what had happened all these years ago. And he's been arrested. He did admit it to the detectives. He admitted it to the girl's dad.
Yep. And then his wife goes down.
So now let's explain. The wife then is named Kendra, and she was arrested. She has been let out. But from this one, we don't know that much, but we think that what I found is that the cops came, obviously, because he's been arrested of molesting a child and they have children in the home, that they needed to check the home. And in checking the home, they saw 2 bedroom doors that had locks on the outside, which would then be, what was what she got? Like, not entrapment. Yeah, entrapment.
Yeah.
Or not entrapment. That's like kidnap. Wait, what's the word?
I don't remember the legal term that they charged her with.
But basically, it's child endangerment and then child, I can't think of the words, but like where they can't get out. And I mean.
Well, and it's interesting because they have 4 kids, right?
Yes.
And there are four counts, 4 charges. So it tells me that the police saw 4 different abuses
happening.
If there's 2 locks on 2 doors, what are the other 2? Like, bad shit is going to come out. Like, she got bonded out, but CPS took the kids.
Oh, they did take the kids, all 4 kids. Okay.
So I'm glad she pays $1,500, gets out. This is within the family and the religion. It has been bred.
Let's talk a little bit more about that because this girl, Libby, I came across her on TikTok when I was, doing more research on the Duggars because I didn't watch, 17 years of it or whatever it was.
I mean, good. Better for your mind.
Yeah. But I understand why it was a hit. And it really is like you're looking inside someone's home, and it was such a different kind of thing. One of the anyway, she was brought to the headquarters of some guy named Bill Gotthard. He was the head of that religion that they followed. And she got sent there because she was seen as like a rebel child or something. So her parents put her there to stay there. And while she was there, girls, according to her TikTok, allegedly girls were brought there that had been abused by their brothers, their dads. Some of them were pregnant with their brother's kids. And then she, as a 17-year-old girl, was supposed to counsel them and help them. And then she alleged that he was doing stuff to them too. But she said he would say things like, well, don't you want a spiritual body so you need to forgive what happened and have like mercy on what happened to you and accept it and and move on. But like no police were involved or anything. And it's just really horrible. I mean, she realizes now, it's just such a cycle.
It's horrible. I mean, they're interpreting biblical scriptures to fit their pedophilic needs, or if it's not pedophiles, it's older, hebephilia or whatever it is. But
what is hebephilia?
14 to 16 or 17. So we quantify, underage has different terms.
Okay. Right. Well, it's a worse count for a child under the age of 14. Oh, that's what it is. That's why they always say that. I never.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the Joseph Duggar thing, the girl was 9.
Yeah.
So it's a worse worse charge
of lewd and lascivious under the age of 12, I think. It might be state to
12.
state.
Yeah.
Different. It's because I'm really California.
Yeah.
Unless I travel for a case. But yeah, it's way worse, and the conviction and the sentencing is going to be way more harsh, which is still so fucked up because if you abuse a 16-year-old, you should still be in prison forever.
Yeah.
I mean, the recidivism rates, them doing it again, are so incredibly high. They don't respond to treatment. as a psychologist, I don't agree with these low-level sentences.
Well, no. And then that other bill came out, I guess, where they're letting out based on prisoners' ages.
Yeah.
So they could be like the worst child molester. But if they're over 55, I'm like, 50? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like this guy, because he's 55 or 60, isn't going to go and grab a child?
And
like,
that's the thing.
They're not 92.
No, like,
and even if they were 92, who cares? Let them die there. Like, what are we doing?
It doesn't have any relation. Like the science, like you're still a psychopath if you're 95.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe you're going to tire out and you won't be as physically aggressive. Your brain is still going to be wired that way.
Yeah.
So, but again, like look at our government. Look at like we are minimizing so much, and we're slowly seeing these laws change. It's really, really fucking disturbing.
Yeah. And so with this was just, so what was also about this, the large family, which I thought was weird, was the parentification of children. So it was like the mom was having so many kids, and, every 10 months she'd have a kid. And then there'd be like an older kid that was assigned a child. But once that older child was assigned a child, if it was a boy, once they got to be like 15 or something, then they were off on, they were no longer in charge of babysitting or doing anything.
It's weird.
And I feel like they knew that. And then I also saw a video, and so then again, more on the girls to take care of it. But at sometimes maybe a 10-year-old boy would be in charge of a child, but then once he was 14, he didn't have to.
Yeah.
And she said, well, we make sure, I saw her in this interview, the mom, we make sure that all the girls know we don't sit on anybody's lap, not your brothers, not your uncles, unless it's your daddy. You don't sit on anybody's lap. And we make sure there's no, you don't play hide and go seek. You're never left alone with your brother. I'm like, I don't know. I grew up with brothers. We never had to worry about that. Like we were talking about that. Like clearly they know this has been bred within this community.
Right.
And she knows it's happening. She doesn't want it to happen. But I feel confident she doesn't want it to happen. So in going along with this weird lifestyle, she's like, we, have taken precautions. None of the girls have said anything did happen with their dad.
No.
But the brothers,
brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've got this isolated community where they're told that women are just cum deposits and that they're indebted to men, right? You've got this strain of misogyny, and they're just taught that they have to take it. Then you've got the psychology of the men feeling like they are entitled to it, right? They're not meeting like vast amounts of people who they can have normal sexual relationships with.
Right. They're handpicked. So for like the Anna Duggar who married Josh, who's doing the 12 years, she was part of the religion. So the parents found her, and they didn't even do a side hug, like where just their body side. Their photo shoot was them like holding hands like this. So she never met or talked to anybody else. And now he's doing all this time, and she still appears to be totally devoted.
Yeah.
And also she has 7 kids she has to raise by herself.
Right. And I imagine the church and no, I'm not going to call it a church. The cult is funding their life, right? So they're stuck. There's so many ways, psychologically, physically, financially, that you get stuck and you can't get out.
And then you add the TV part of it, because I was like, what are they all doing now? Because so many of them have gone on to be married and have several kids themselves, and a lot of them are still doing social media. They are, some are in like real estate and car sales and stuff like that, but still, it was a cycle to keep it going. They were doing so not only are you living this weird thing, but then you also are famous and millions of people are looking at you, but you're still isolated. You're not going to college or meeting other people or anything like that, unlike other reality star kids that I can.
Right.
I mean, this is like the worst of the worst when you think about it. So in these weird religious situations, we saw it with like the Warren Jeff and all that, where they discovered that all these women, he was marrying multiple women, and some were as young as like 9. And there's, I think, a new doc on Netflix coming out about it too. But why is it because we have freedom of religion that there's a weird differentiation of like church and state in that, well, they live over there and they do their own thing and that's their religion. So how are we supposed to know if you never report it, if you never run in your weird long dress to the police station and tell us, as if you a child that's only lived in this world and knows no different and doesn't and is told that the world outside is evil? Like, what would give a child like that the strength to tell anybody? They're not going to regular school. They don't have a teacher to tell. They probably don't go to a regular doctor.
Right. And they're not, and part of the original trial when the dad was like, I knew he did it and I didn't tell anyone for a while.
About the Josh?
Yeah.
Duggar? Yeah.
Because of Deuteronomy 19:15. Like, grab your Bibles, guys.
What is that? What is that
actually
saying?
just chat GPT it. No one's going to read a Bible right now.
But what is it in a summary? Yeah.
It basically says that you can't go to anyone outside of the church unless there are 2 objective church member, cult member people witnessing the sexual violence. So your story won't be believed. In fact, if you don't go to the elders first and you go to like a cop, oh my God, a secular cop, you could go to hell. Like, you could ruin everything. They're terrified.
Well, how does that law even make sense? Because
it's in the Bible, and
because it's like, well, you're not doing it on the altar at the church. You're obviously doing it behind closed doors to the child, to the victim.
And even if you walk in and you see it, that's not enough because you're only one person.
That's crazy.
The victim doesn't count, and they misconstrue it to the point of that's why they don't tell the police. They tell the elders. The elders deal with it in-house and nothing happens.
That's the same rule, I believe, in Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, yeah.
too.
I just did a trial on that.
Oh, you did? Tell me
my
about
God.
that.
I mean, I had to explain to the lawyer what a vulva was because he was a Jehovah's Witness lawyer.
You mean the car? Oh, no, the vulva.
Oh, no.
I was like, what?
The vagina.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I was explaining the crime and basically how he said, oh, I don't know. I picked her up on my hip and somehow my finger just entered her vagina. And what I explained to the jury was, so I want to explain, like, let's look at a vagina. How does a finger go? First, she had tights on. Second, little girls wear larger underwear than women who wear, thongs.
Right.
Or no underwear. You pick her up from the hip and somehow you manipulate your finger into her vulva and touching multiple parts of within the fatty part of the vagina and then fully entering her. Like, I had to explain this, and the lawyer he did not even understand what I was explaining. He couldn't defend his client because he didn't even understand the names for the vagina.
Because he was part of that religion as well?
Because he was in the religion too, because they're so uneducated on female anatomy and healthy sex and just normal stuff that we learn in normal lives that aren't in these cult-like fashions.
And so now you said, that you've done a Jehovah's Witness one, and was he convicted?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
And
I've done so many, I can't remember. A lot of Catholic.
Yeah, tell me about that.
A lot of Catholic. Well, when California and other states opened, I think it's 340.1 certificate of merit, you could sue if you were over 40 and you were abused when you were a child. And it was big in the Catholic Church. And
right.
So people, lawyers would hire me and I would basically say, like, this is a valid claim. And I would do, like lie detection and all the psychological testing. And then they could put forward their lawsuit. And then we'd move on to a full trial where then you would have a full psychological assessment. And we would see if, how did this trauma affect your life, emotional damages, things like that. And so I've worked dozens of the cases fully to the end, but thousands of the original certificates. And we've bankrupted dioceses I mean, they have no fight. They can't say no because there's just too much evidence and proof. And then unified school districts and Catholic school districts or Catholic schools all around here. Long Beach, Servite, like.
Oh, yeah.
All of them. And so basically, most of them are now settling out of court once they know that I've been retained and they see the report. They're giving millions to these people to quiet them.
My brother went to a private school out here, Catholic, and he was, but my mom would go, oh, Jim wanted to go back, didn't like the school and wanted to go to the public school because he said that the typing teacher was always trying to give them back massages. And then cut to like 25 years later, that guy was convicted.
Yeah. I mean,
so I'm like, yeah, thank God my brother wasn't a victim and left and whatever. And I think that's really interesting in sadly, some of the ones that I have found out in that they kind of go after the vulnerable situation, the widow, the single mom, the less fortunate child who has to get there at 6 a.m. to pay for the tuition. So like he's on scholarship, so he's there at 6 a.m. helping getting the cafeteria ready, and there's that alone time. And then also one of the tactics I remember them doing is like the priest or whatever would get the teenage boy to come out and hang out, and they would start with, you could have a little alcohol.
Yeah. The grooming.
And then they drank or smoked pot or whatever together and maybe even watch porn. And then something sexual would happen. Yeah. And then he would say, the abuser would say, now I'm going to tell your parents, if you tell on me, I'm going to tell your parents that you drank, you smoked pot, you looked at porn. Mm-hmm. When you said we're supposed to be studying.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then they're embarrassed and they don't know what's going on. And it's like, oh.
And the young boys are so confused because they will orgasm. They will ejaculate.
Yeah.
But they like girls and they don't understand why their penis is doing it. And then they're like, am I gay? Did I want this? And then they self-blame, self-hate. They don't want to tell anyone because they're so confused.
Right.
50 years later, they're like, holy crap, I can't keep a relationship. This has ruined my view of sexuality. I can't be intimate and I'm addicted to drugs. Like, it ruins people's lives.
Yeah.
And that's where I fight.
Right.
That's where I explain to the jury and I say, you guys better fucking believe this person. And here's the science behind it.
Yes, absolutely.
Makes me livid. And it makes me even more livid when religion is used to be a part of that abuse.
Absolutely. Did you ever, was there ever a case that you said, no, I actually don't believe this person?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk on that a little bit?
I signed an NDA on a more recent one, but I didn't believe the woman. Mm. And it was her being, I don't want us to have to mute everything.
No.
Or I
don't know if there's a way you can, without, is there something in general, hypothetically, that would make your alarm go off to maybe go, hold on, I think we need to not accept everything she's saying at this point?
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of the psychological testing. So I'm retained by the attorneys. It's non-refundable. I don't have one side or another. I don't care if one attorney pays me. If I don't believe the case, whatever, you're going to take the report and you're probably not going to use it, right? You'll get another expert who might go along with you. But I do so much psychological testing on trauma and lie detection, malingering. The batteries are 4 to 8 hours. And then I'm asking friends and family. I'm on their Instagram. I'm looking everywhere.
Oh, okay.
Like detective style. And I want to know really genuinely if it's true. And then the psychological assessments look at, are you consistent? Are you infrequent? How do you compare to people your age, your gender, who do your job? Are you reacting the way that other people would react to say that this happened to them? So there's so much that goes into it. And it's rare, but I have had several women who are not telling the truth, and it's a money grab for a celebrity or an athlete.
But it's, in your opinion, it's more that the celebrity and athlete thing and not a childhood trauma like, because I mean, jokingly, this is just jokingly, it's still me. When all that stuff came out about the church,
Yeah.
There were people that were like, God, I was an altar boy. Why wasn't I molested? I could have gotten, $3 million. I guess my butt wasn't as cute as the guy next to me. Just in poor taste, but like that type of thing. And I can't imagine that someone as like a 40-year-old that happened to then would make that up. Yeah. But maybe some people would go and then they'd be found out to be not truthful before it gets too far. But
definitely.
But most of the times, obviously, it's who would want to go through all that, unless in a certain case, I did have a date with this person. We went out once, and then, I'm a desperate woman who wants to say that, it was unwanted or unwarranted.
Well, how this goes down is you get one guy coming forward, and then you get the lawyers saying, okay, I'm going to go on Facebook and I'm going to target ads towards everyone who was in your high school that year or in the 4 years. Everyone who was on that water polo team. Water polo was a big one, a big access. And then people are going to start saying, okay, yeah, I did have this incident that happened in the locker room. So yeah, I'll speak on it. But then everyone's like, oh, wait, so many people are speaking on it. Maybe I should just say it happened to me too. And so that's where I come in and I'm like, oh, okay, it doesn't line up. Now we have 17 people from this one water polo coach, but the pattern of grooming and abuse by the coach lines up with 16 people. Your story it doesn't line up at all.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Okay.
And it's like, no, that's not how that predator did it. He had a way. They always have a way, just like serial killers, right? They always have a way. They always have a trophy. If you're the one off, if we're lucky enough to have that many people come forward and I can identify the pattern, that's a really great way to see who's lying too.
And what have you found to be, it does always seem, and it is not the kid and, whose mom is the classroom mom. Or the kid whose dad is also coaching football. It's not the kid that has the parents all around, which not to make a parent feel badly if they're not the parent that's all around.
Right.
But it is something that if that is your situation, you almost have to be hyper aware and talk to your kid even more so, because that they are maybe left in the after school care and things like that.
It's those kids. It's the vulnerable kids. It's the prepubescent kids when everyone else is hitting puberty. But it's definitely...
Wait, what do you mean? They someone who's behind in...
The younger looking kids.
Oh.
Because that's a...
Yeah.
That's a pedophilic attraction, right? So if you're coaching a bunch of kids who are around 13 and some are starting to grow pubic hair, they're not going to be, the pedophile doesn't want that, right? He wants the prepubescent.
Oh, I thought it was because that kid was feeling even more awkward and lonely that they were also could be a victim.
I think that's definitely part of it. But that's a part of the grooming. Like in all of these cases, the minute the kid pushes back, the guy's done. The predator's done. He's going to move on to the next one. He wants to give you subtle, like you were saying, he wants to give you subtle ways, get you high, show you porn, keep moving forward, and then see how far you'll go. And if you push back, then it's not going to go all the way to sodomy.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Let's grab another one.
I always remember, with like the Michael Jackson stuff. And even Corey Feldman, I remember in an interview said, well, he did nothing to me. But I do remember in one interview, it's just my memory, that Corey Feldman said he was with Michael Jackson and Michael Jackson had a book open that was like a science anatomy book, but it was on the page of like genitalia and like a male body with like a dick. And he kind of was like, oh, do you find that interesting or whatever? Well, that was the bait.
That was the moment.
And he didn't take it. Yeah. And also I was like, you were already like a working actor. The kid whose mom was desperate to get their child to be the next Corey Feldman, that was, just in a background dancer or something.
Right.
That's the one. So it's like when someone would say, when anyone would say, well, Harvey Weinstein was nice to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, you either wasn't the target or you did give off some vibe that you were not going to be an easy target.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm so glad Harvey Weinstein's getting pummeled in prison right now.
Oh my God. And then he's like doing interviews. And he's like, I don't know why Gwyneth said that about me. I helped her career. I wish Bradley Cooper would call me. He wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But one thing he did say, because I just saw this somewhere that someone kind of summarized the thing. He did say that he is nice about his ex-wife, the fashion designer. He likes that she's dating Adrian Brody. He said that he's good for the kids, and he does talk to those. I think he talks to those young kids. He said he only talks to 2 out of his 5 kids, so I don't know if he talks to them or the older ones. But I kind of thought that he's like, she didn't deserve that. I was like cheating on her all the time, and of course he calls it cheating. But
Cheating.
yeah,
Sexually abusing.
Yeah.
Maybe because he's getting old and senile too. Like maybe he's starting to let a little slip or feeling a little nostalgic.
Right.
You know, like in the Clinton deposition when Clinton saw the photos.
And he was reminiscing.
His whole demeanor changed.
That was so old, Grandpa. Like, wait a minute, let me see that one. And the attorney's like
tugging it away.
I was like, oh my God.
Just like Les Wexner when the attorney was like, if you say something over 5 words or something,
fucking stab you in the neck. It was something like, it was, oh my God.
This is why I'm trying to help Congress, because I'm like, no, guys, you're starting too high. Those are pointless depositions. We need the doctors. We need the chefs. We need the gardeners. We need to, the House Oversight needs to subpoena all the people that ran the estates. And we need to start building the pattern and the cases that way. We need to build a RICO. We need to get everyone at the top in trouble, but we've got to lock in the bottom first.
Yeah, I don't know why that either. And I mean, they would tell the truth. And I don't even think people would be critical of them.
Or they could be, I forget the word, protected.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But also like in their position. Yeah, of course. Who were the housekeepers? Who were the, the chefs and everybody else that was around all that stuff. I want to get, just before we close up the Duggar thing, like, what do you think about all these now reality shows of like Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and the reality and the TV people knowing that this is also fascinating because it breeds this kind of person that, gets married young, doesn't have a lot of experience. However, there's so much divorce in the Mormon situation, which I was sort of surprised about, because I'm like, I thought the whole point was like you were tied to this person till the eternal life, but they seem to get divorced and it seems to be okay.
Well, the people, the Mormons in Utah despise these shows, right? And despise these women. Like they're not
I just came from Salt Lake City, and they do not like it. I thought maybe, I wondered if they did, because I just thought, it's the ultimate MLM, multiple level marketing, and that, instead of knocking on everyone's door for 2 years in a mission, you're like seeing them on TV. Does that make, because I'm thinking there probably are young women that are fascinated by these beautiful girls and their babies and their long hair extensions, that they're like, I'll join the church if it means I can be on TV and dance in front of an iPhone with these girls. I wonder if there are any young girls that are trying to join the church in hopes to meet these girls and get on a TV show.
I bet that definitely. Yeah. I think that the majority of people who respect the religion and actually like are true Mormons find it disgraceful. But I think, oh my gosh, yes. The fame of Taylor, like that's her name. Yeah.
Taylor Frankie Paul.
Yeah. I mean, now she's infamous. Maybe it's not fame, but there are so many young people who want to be famous, and we have different avenues now for fame. Yeah. And they're searching it out.
I just wonder if, like, how did the news get out between this? Are they on a group text? with their 19 kids and their 30,000 grandkids. Like, by the way, you guys, hey, heads up. Easter's going to be a little different this year. Joseph's been arrested, and so is Kendra's wife. And, we're going to pray for the Lord to bless them and that girl that chose to want to relive something that apparently wasn't something she wanted. Like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, I would be so freaked out if I knew someone who was married to one of these boys, because now being that there was a second one,
there's more.
You're like, is more going to come out? What's my husband doing at night or at work or whatever? I mean, you'd feel like, when's the third shoe going to drop,
Yeah.
Already two have dropped.
I think probably soon, right? Starts to really snowball.
One thing you said was, you clarified by saying not necessarily a man. We have seen so many cases of women, teachers, mothers, molesting young boys, 13, 14, 15. Of course, Mary Kay Letourneau is the most infamous one, in which she had 2 children with him, did her time in prison, and then married him. She's since passed of cancer. But there's so many. There was the one of the, just recently, she was the mayor of the town, had a pool party with her son and the son's friends, slept with the son's friend. That whole thing happened. That kid was under 18. What do you think is the psychological? Have you studied what kind of a woman who is a teacher who pursues her male students who are under 18?
Science-wise, of course, it's not studied as much, right? But it's not the same as this abuse of power and authority, wanting to overtake someone's life. That's kind of the higher level psychopathic harm that men will do. And then you've got like the pedophilic men who have emotional attachments, who think they are entitled to teach a child how to have sex. And in fact, it might actually help them in life, all these cognitive distortions. But with the women, what we find is it's not multiple victims. It's usually one, and it's usually an emotional connection. It's validation. It's something that fulfills her that she's not able to fulfill herself. And it's completely fucked up still.
I always wondered if it had anything, because it's, the most popular scenario, the high school thing.
Yeah.
That the teachers, maybe she's under 30. She's very attractive. She has a husband, and she starts sleeping with, her 15 or 16-year-old student who is kind of a stud. But she pursues him. And of course it has horrible effects on his life, and is weird because, again, this is your first experience. But then it was romanticized, like, I'm hot for teacher, and songs, and and there's always, after every arrest, if she's attractive, which they all seem to be, it'll be like, I wish that was my teacher, and that kind of comments and things. I always wondered if it was some kind of mental situation where it was like, you choose to be a teacher. And one time I did think about some of the girls that I went to high school with that went on to be teachers. And I was like, well, you're finally the smartest one in the room. Like, there was, not to put down teachers, and this only for a couple of them that seemed to always like, I'm like, you didn't go the route of being a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, because then you would have been surrounded by other smart people. This way, you are the authoritative person. You are the smartest one in the room. You're teaching them. And then I was like, is there something about also seeing when it would be like a pretty girl? Like, I peaked in high school, and now I like teaching high school. I like being around that high school life. And now I've been in this marriage for 5 years, and maybe it's not so great. And this is exciting. And just like you'd have a work relationship with someone at your office, this person you see every day throughout the day.
Yeah. And they're popular.
Yeah.
Right? They're popular, and they're in charge. And they get into teachers are very close with their students. A 17-year-old boy who's 6'5", I could see teachers really, I mean, that's why they have ethics. That's why they have so much training, so that they don't get psychologically manipulated by themselves into thinking that this is justified and it's okay.
But then, with the president of France, there's been different stories. One was she was his teacher. She was married with 3 kids. He went off to college, got out of college, and then she was divorced and they started their relationship. Other people say, no, I think something happened there and, whatever. But I mean, it is interesting that in those scenarios, and Mary Kay Letourneau, whatever, there are these situations where it lasts and it works. Yeah. And there are some for men too.
Yeah.
I had a situation when I was in high school and we were doing a play, and it was a man and a woman who directed the play. Okay. And this one girl had already graduated from high school. So she was like a freshman at the junior college, and she was the junior director of it. And, when you're doing plays and stuff, a lot of people massaging each other and whatever, giving massage. And I did see that she was getting massaged by the husband. And I was just like, that's weird. That's weird that she lives with them and that she's, but it was like the mom wanted her to live with it because she was also helping the little kid that was also there helping with the art direction, whatever. And then I'm just going to call his name Joe, the dad. Okay. So who was the art director guy. Years later, I'm doing real estate. I'm sitting on an open house and she comes in and she long red hair and she's very pretty. And she has a little daughter now too. And she was like, oh, I'm like, oh, how's everything? Daughter's so cute. And she's like, oh, this is Joe's daughter. And they, I guess, were together. They got divorced. The couple got divorced, and she did marry him, have his kid. But maybe she wasn't 16, but it was definitely a weird situation. Don't know where they are today.
Yeah.
But that it sometimes it does result in a marriage and kids and everything else.
Who knows how it turns out? But yeah. It began predatory.
Yeah. I also want to just talk about this latest video that TMZ is covering. It's Gypsy Rose Lee and Gypsy Rose. What's her last name? Blanchard.
Yeah.
Who was convicted for participating in her mother's murder. The guy that she actually got to kill the mother, who was Munchausen's by proxy and absolutely was a horrible person. He, I think, is spending life in prison or much longer time. She got out. She got the TV show. She got the nose job. She's looking a lot better. She got her teeth fixed. She's got a baby, but now she's single. And she's doing this video with some other girl who's a big TikToker. And she's like, never have I ever, or something like that. And so she's like, never have I ever killed my mom and did time for it and making light of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel about that?
It was, to me, there's two sides, right? We're all the vengeance. I'm so happy that she fought back.
Right.
But also we're not making light of this. We can't make light of this because we can't encourage the millions of people who watch that video to think it's okay to murder someone.
Yeah.
Right? The whole way, other things could have been done, the police could have been involved. So I think it's more it shows her immaturity, of course. I'm a little bit proud of her. But also I think she needs to be very careful about how she uses her platform and her fame now, because
her show was canceled.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I think she is, going, okay, how do I keep this rolling? And,
clickbait.
And and why not? Whatever.
Well, we need a new Bachelorette.
Oh my God.
Gypsy? I mean, ABC really fucked up on that, didn't they? Let's push that to the line. And
that
oopsie.
might be. I wouldn't be surprised. That might be the next one.
There you go, ABC. Yeah. Here's your pick.
Every mother-in-law is excited to see her walk through on hometowns. My God. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay. So let's talk about a little bit more, because there's just so much going on in what you're covering. What do you think is going to happen with the Zorro Ranch?
It's really interesting because I do think the stories by several of the survivors are viable, how they have said.
Just to fill people in. So Zorro Ranch is where he had that New Mexico house ranch.
Right. It's 7,000 acres.
That's what Epstein had. Can you just talk a little bit about it? Because I feel like we hear about the island, but there's this whole other place in New Mexico, and that very interesting looking couple have bought it.
Yeah.
To run some Christian retreat.
For kids.
Let's talk a little bit about this. So
Zorro Ranch is about 7,000 acres, originally owned by Epstein or his estate or someone. It also won the Powerball for $80 million, like 4 days after Epstein.
You mean someone representing the estate won it?
Yeah. I don't think Epstein went into the gas station.
I've seen these lottery things, and this is really true. Didn't he win it also? Or someone in his world win the lottery when he was in Miami or in Florida?
Yes. Statistically very unlikely.
That he's won it twice.
Yes. I mean, this guy is like seriously running the world. But the survivors of him do say that they overheard and were even just told that the bodies were buried in Zorro Ranch. But there's also an incinerator on Zorro Ranch. And there are grave sites if you look at it from above, but they are actively investigating it. I would just be curious. They are. The representative Melanie.
Finally, somebody's bothered to go over there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think people were going and then getting in trouble because they weren't professionals.
Oh, okay.
But I think now, finally, it's actually a police investigation. Now, if the FBI gets involved and wants that stopped, who knows? But the representatives have been pushing very hard with the local police to get cadaver dogs out there, DNA analysis, to start digging up.
And then the evidence to go and look into it is girls saying that they heard that.
Yeah.
And then then also their journals.
In their journals, they talked a lot about horrible things happening at the ranch. And then survivors have talked about, like the snuff videos that were occurring at the ranch. So where they were being forced to sexually abuse other children and then end their lives, and adults would end the lives, or a child would end a child's life.
And do you think in those cases that these children were, from poor families or third world countries or something where it wouldn't be a big poster of this person missing and where did they go and we need to find them?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think a lot of the parents were paid. And I mean, the primary person to traffic a child is the biological father. That's in this, the stats are like 100,000 kids in this country alone a year. I think that's way too small. It's
that are trafficked.
I'm sure it's way more than 100,000. But then you look to the more poor rural countries, and yes, they took payment. Orphanages took payment. They brought in girls. But Epstein also had a very specific baby he wanted to breed. Like, he really liked Virginia Giuffre because she was blonde and blue-eyed, right? And so if these guys, and if you can see this in the files all over, but if these guys impregnated one of the girls, that's where Epstein would reply in an email, whoops, Google whoops, or put it in the files and look how many times he says whoops. But he would then send them to the dentist and he'd want before and after pictures. The dentist was the abortion, right? But he kept the ones that looked the way he wanted. And in one of the journals, the girl...
He kept the babies.
The babies. One of the journals, the girl says she was pregnant 3 times, never got to see the babies. Where are the babies? He also had... His sperm is still in a cryo chamber in LA.
Who owns that? The brother?
The brother needs to do some fucking talking.
And didn't the brother also, what I've seen, is own or run the apartments in New York that I think is pretty conclusive, in my opinion, to have been where these girls would stay and have to, be trafficked.
Yeah, there were like 17 apartments, I think.
Yeah.
And then they had an interior designer who recently spoke.
And some of those girls were over 18, though. Some were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some were. In Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, the youngest was 14. But in these files, they're way younger. And you can tell because they have menus of children in the files. They have names of celebrities or people they wanted to access. And then they have numbers next to them, like their preference in a child. So they had these menus they were putting forward to try and, again, they were grooming people to get things out of them, just like we talked about earlier. But they were grooming high-level people. So like they had a KGB guy in there. They were grooming him to access a Norwegian guy. And then Jeffrey and whoever else were figuring out what their little fetishes were and then making those fetishes come true. And, we have one email.
And then the blackmail starts.
Yes.
To get them to do what they want or get their info or their money or whatever.
Yeah. And don't worry, this is all secret. No one will know. We'll fulfill your fetish. There were videos. I mean, Pam Bondi on a hot mic. There's 12,000 videos of little girls. They're not showing any of that to us. The UK just subpoenaed the files. Do you think they're really going to get them? I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when Prince Andrew got arrested, it wasn't necessarily for any sex crimes. It was like him, what was it?
Like
him
abusing his job authority or something?
Yeah, by sharing information about the royal family or something.
Yeah.
And with Virginia, I mean, what do you think? Because I have not read her book.
I think
I know her story. Yeah, no, I know her story, but like, and then, because then she said, then she gets married, and you think that she's living a nice life. She finally escapes this awful life of where Ghislaine and he wanted to have her baby, and she was like, you should have his baby, and and that's when she finally escapes. Then she meets this nice guy, we thought, and is married and has kids, comes forward, but then was said that he was abusing her, and then she was getting divorced, and then she ended her life.
Yeah.
Do you think she ended her life?
I do, only because I know people who knew her very well at the time, and she was in a very, very bad mental state, estranged from her kids and her family. And she was stuck. She took settlement money from people, from predators that were involved with Epstein. And had she spoken out about those particular people, all that money would have gone away from her kids. So she couldn't, sure, she found a little bit of justice. Well, she never really found any before she took her life at all. But there's on the podcast Broken with Tara Palmieri, Tara and Virginia go around and they confront people that Virginia remembered from the island and from being around Epstein in New York. And there are moments of validation, but it's a really...
They confront him how? On the phone or something?
No, they went to the houses. So Juan is a good example. He was, I think, a house manager. He was driving Maxwell around, and they would pick up girls. They needed to, fulfill the menu. And so Virginia and Tara went to Juan's house on the podcast. I think it was paid for by Apple. I'm not sure. And they started talking, and Juan was like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. He started saying, there were little girls everywhere, and he was validating her. But then all of a sudden his phone rings. It was the FBI. So he stopped talking. And since then he has refused to talk. That's someone who needs to be subpoenaed.
Oh my God.
And Tara is an independent journalist. I mean, but knowing that Virginia went on that journey and just got shut down left and right. And then how do you not, after being trafficked and horribly abused for so many years, you can't fight against that depression. I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And then, the bus accident and...
What's the bus accident?
Right before she...
Oh, that's right.
Right before she died, she said she was hit by a bus, I think, but she was pretty bloodied and beaten up.
Like in her car or like walking?
Walking, I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
that's right. That's right.
Maybe that was a self-harm attempt. Maybe it was an accident, but she wasn't in a good mental state.
Right. And then you're like sick and maybe taking painkillers and not, already in a vulnerable place.
So I don't think someone took her life. I think Epstein and everyone who abused her took her life through her mental state, and they should be accountable for that. And that's where we have those coercive control bills where you can actually get in trouble now in Australia, especially Australia where this happened.
What does that explain?
That if somebody takes their life because you abuse them psychologically, you are held liable and you can be convicted now. And we have about 7 states in America that are pushing bills for that too.
That's kind of like we've seen those cases where that one young girl told her boyfriend
to kill himself.
You better do it. You said you were going to do it. Why aren't you doing it tonight? And I do think she got time.
Yeah, she did.
Oh, that was awful. Getting a little more on this. Do you think Epstein killed himself?
No, not at all. I actually have talked to several people who specialize in like autopsies, and I want to educate myself, right? It doesn't line up, and like some agree with me and some don't, and they have the training. I don't, right? I'm not in there cutting out the heart and checking it out, but the files say he didn't have a prostate. He had a prostate when the body was examined. His urethra was aligned. He didn't have a
prostate because he had prostate cancer and it was removed?
Yeah.
And then this body had a prostate.
This body had a prostate. You know, he also had an odd-shaped, egg-like shaped penis with his urethra located on like one side. And the autopsy didn't have that. I mean, autopsies go into fucking detail, right?
He had an odd-shaped penis because the victims have shared. And
the victim shared, and he was asked about it in a video deposition.
Oh.
And declined to. He looked notably pissed off when he was asked about it. Yeah. Oh, and
this one didn't have an odd-shaped penis.
Yeah. And then the autopsy said he had small testes. The victim said otherwise. Of course, he has small testes. But there are so many things, like the strangulation was not how you would scar. It was not how you would strangle. It was angled more horizontally when it would be angled more upward. The breakage of the bone, I forget what this is called, but the main neck bone was broken in so many places. And one of the doctors who has done this for 50 years said he's never seen a hanging and the bone break like that. So there's just so many discrepancies.
So then now there's two things, right? There's one, it was him, but he didn't kill himself. Or this guy, this person's who they found, they killed him. So it didn't look like but it was not Epstein.
Right.
So then where is Epstein?
Well, I think we'll have some insight because they subpoenaed the prison guard.
Right. Now that whole thing was there were 2 guards. They both fell asleep at the same time.
Yeah. And oddly, the video footage cut at 23 seconds when the body was moved in. Epstein purchased 2 ambulances right before this. I mean, he had tattoos. He didn't have tattoos on the autopsy.
So that tattoo really was that they showed? I mean, you see so many things like, and I'm like, I don't know, did he really have like a 90s like bar wire?
No, that was a stick-on. He had other tattoos that were real.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. And again, he's naked getting massaged by survivors. They know what his body looks like.
Right.
So, I mean, if you're thinking, he's running.
I always remember right when it happened that the profile was different.
The profile was different. And I don't know when you die, if things start to move. I'm not that familiar with where does our filler and Botox go when we die? I don't know.
But that was it was like him being rolled out and the profile was different.
It looked very different. And then people have, constructed earlobe profiles and his ears look different and everything. But sure, we can think of conspiracy, but we also have to think of the bigger picture. This guy was running the world's biggest money, drug, sex trafficking ring. He has tea on everyone. He probably has tea on Putin. right? He had the KGB there. He had everyone. You don't think like once he thought he was going to get caught, he had an out plan? And then the guard on 4chan wrote that they came in with a body at midnight. You don't, in prison with a high-profile person, make any movement at midnight.
But who came in with the body? Somebody said someone came in with a body.
Yeah.
Who said that?
I don't remember their name, but it's in the email is in the files.
And
the FBI also reiterated the email stating that they received the email.
So, I mean, I thought those photos of who they thought, those photos of a guy walking around Israel, I thought those were AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not.
And then we've got this Palm Beach guy that.
Oh, and then they have the Palm Beach Pete.
Palm Beach Pete.
Who is like loving life, doing TMZ interviews, New Yorkie, just what you'd see. He seems like a good time, but he's not Jeffrey Epstein.
No.
But I mean, listen, once guys get to a certain age, I just joked in my act about how my husband, is a golfer, and I'll go to the country line and I'll be like, Peter, like gray hair, the outfit, people start to think like, couples, even older couples start to look like each other. Like a lot of people can kind of look like, especially an older Jewish guy with gray hair that lives half his life in New York and Miami sounds, So what do you think? You don't know. I don't. Do you think he's alive? Do you think Epstein's alive?
100%.
Oh, you do think he's alive?
Yeah. The reason I think he's alive is because he was way too powerful. If he could get into the Powerball, I mean, he was convicted way earlier, and he somehow got a work release.
No, the weekend jail. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Like, he had too many ways to pull strings, and as it started to tighten down on him, why wouldn't he have an out plan? And he was paying $5,000 deposits to the prison guard.
But I'm just wondering, let's just hypothetical. So he's alive somewhere. What if you were to guess, what does that life look like when you're living in hiding, but you have a lavish lifestyle? You have access to a lot of money to keep it nice, but it's not like you can have 30 people around you every day making you sushi. What do you think? Where do you think he is? What do you think he's doing?
I would imagine plastic surgery. Like, he probably changed what he looks like.
Oh,
and I would imagine, again, anyone tell me I'm wrong. I would love to not be right. Right? I don't want to be right. I hope the guy's fucking dead and in hell and rotting.
Yeah.
But my guess is he's in Russia. Like, I think we're putting so much on Israel, but there was a lot of desire to get to Putin. Putin's mentioned a lot. There were a lot of interactions with the KGB in the files.
And what about Ghislaine? And I call her Ghislaine. What about Ghislaine? Because I talked about how that image of her with now short dark hair again, like her signature haircut, even though she went into prison with like a grayish bob. Now you're going to go back to prison and cut your hair and get hair dye. And then the nose wasn't the same. What do you think? Where do you think she is?
I still think that's her in prison.
You do?
My assumption is she's just not aging well. But the fact that she was moved to a lower security, they took her off the federal sex offender registry, and she's basically blackmailing Trump. So I think she's still alive, or else we wouldn't have kind of those details of what she's doing right now with everything.
But why would they even release that deposition or whatever it was when she's like in the orange jumpsuit talking? Why were we even privy to that? Why were we allowed to see it?
With Todd Blanche, the recent...
Yeah, the recent one where people felt her nose was different. I felt her nose was different. I kind of wondered if there's somebody that I wondered if she too is not there, and somebody that works within the government or whatever or not is just literally doing their time, playing as her at the easier prison, so it's not hell. Because I remember before her trial, there was someone, her family defending her, somebody defending her in like a 2020, who was like, she is in the worst, like whatever the Rikers version is for women. rats are crawling around, and I thought, oh, they're putting her in a really bad place so that she'll tell. But then she really didn't, or she did. And someone protected her. I mean, I don't know. We don't know.
Right.
But I was like, is there somebody that's like, they find somebody and they're like, hey, you're going to be Ghislaine for 6 years at this lesser prison, and you can work with the dogs, and you're going to get, $1 million a year for it. And maybe if somebody would say yes to that, like maybe I would do that.
The thing is that like we're questioning that.
Right.
Like the government's thrown so much
I think there's
shit.
a lot of people that are like, 50-year-old women that offered that. They would be like, to then walk out at 56 and have $6 million in the bank. Yeah, I'll go to the prison and play Ghislaine for 6 years.
But like we are dealing with something bigger than Watergate, and we're like, it might not. They might have switched her body out. Yeah, like. I know. This is what the administration did on purpose. It's hyper normalization. They dumped all this shit so fast. I know, that's what I said.
I go, why did you give it? Like, why did you give us? I basically felt like I was in school. We were told to do this big group project. And then at the end, they're like, oh, by the way, that doesn't go towards your grade. And you're like, what? We thought this was going to be the whole thing. Like, what does it matter? And then you do get exhausted by it. Yeah. You do.
And traumatized.
Yeah. It has been so interesting to talk to you again. And you really do a great job on your social media. So tell everybody, where they can find more of you. And you have a YouTube page, and tell everybody.
Yeah, just Dr. Leslie Dobson on Instagram. TikTok is probably going to be violated because of all the Epstein content. YouTube, I'll start growing.
What do you mean violated? Like your own thing, or like TikTok's going to go away?
I
keep
getting violations for talking about it.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
How do they tell you you're getting a violation?
You get like a strike on your notifications, and then it's like strike 2, strike 3.
But how do they justify the strike? I mean, it's in the news. Like, how do they say it? That's so weird.
I think AI, it's just, it
generates something, an algorithm. Like
they have code words. They probably overly strike because they're trying to censor things. But, I got a strike for talking about Candace Owens, and that was pretty neutral. So I don't really know.
What do you think of Candace Owens? Let's just wrap it up, because I'm like, what do you think is going on there? Did you just see that she made merch that said, Daddy's home, Shabbat Shalom, making fun of the fact that Erica Kirk had said that?
I think
what is going on?
Candace is brilliantly diabolical and clout chasing. And I think what the world needs to understand is that she maximizes on propaganda. She is epic with stringing you along with a little bit of truth and then
while
dropping
holding a pen.
in. Yes.
Holding a pen and being like, the source that I have that's going to tell you everything that you need to know.
Right.
That'll all make sense. Like, it's pretty.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's very, very good at stringing everyone else along, but not actually providing any substantial information, but like rallying the excitement. And sure, she has a lot of ins and nos, but man, her friends talk so much shit about her. People will tell me, so like she makes fun of her audience. She makes fun of people believing her. Like she's playing it. She's doing it for the money. Now, I don't know we're not talking about Macron suing her now, right? Oh, wait, whoopsie.
But they are suing her, right?
We've been distracted again, Candace.
Yeah. That's right. How's she going to get out of that one?
She's not. I think that's why she's not talking about it.
Not talking about it anymore, but still.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think she would have to pay something.
There's going to be a trial in Delaware, right? Like, I mean, I've never seen a president sue a podcaster. And in her rebuttal, she wrote, "Oh, I'm just a poor podcaster out of my basement." She is what she is when she wants to be what she wants to be, and taken seriously or not. And that's part of the propaganda. That's part of the false image and the team that she's rallied together to basically annihilate Erica Kirk, who I wish I had never known who Erica Kirk was.
I know.
I don't want to know these people.
It's just like, what are we watching?
Erica, where are your kids? Like, Did they just lose their dad?
And then there was one thing that was, someone said they got the domain name of VanceKirk.com 2 days after Charlie's murder. And I said, yeah, but who got that domain name? Because someone has HeatherMcDonald.com and it's not me.
Was it Toby? Heather McDonald. Somebody has your?
HeatherMcDonald.com. Somebody bought before I ever had a website. Because they were just people just buy it because they think you might be famous or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when we tried to get it, they wanted $10,000 and we said no. So it's HeatherMcDonald.net. But like I'm saying, like, it doesn't mean that she bought it or that JD Vance bought it. Like someone just bought it because they were like smart enough to go, what?
Yeah.
And then they also want to see. And the things that also people don't realize, is there's this whole world of betting that is not just about teams. There's betting on, if there's a speech, how do we bet that he's going to say these 5 things in it, this, that, who's going to win, who's going to, so I'm like, that's a whole nother world that people make money that make this crazy movie that we're living in, because it's truly a movie.
Yes.
I believe that we are living in a movie. I'm like, whatever. And sometimes I'm getting into it. And then sometimes I'm like, I want to throw my phone into the ocean.
Yeah.
And like, it's just.
Could it be the Truman Show? Like
that it is. We're like, literally, I don't know what this is. And then one day it was all, Barack Obama did a podcast and he said, yeah, aliens are real and they're here. But it was like a small podcast. It wasn't like he went on like Joe Rogan or somebody, or even Michelle's pod. He didn't even do it on his own wife's podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's weird. All of a sudden he does he's a guest on some smaller pod and just to put out about the aliens. And I was like, oh yeah, like another distraction. We cared about the aliens when they were hovering over New Jersey. We don't care anymore.
And then Trump said he was opening. Thing? Yeah. And Trump then said or tweeted or whatever, fucking platforms, that he's going after the aliens. Like, this isn't. People are dying. People are dying every day. And this is what our media is doing and our leaders. Like, that's why I say vote. I don't care who you vote for other than somebody who has a fucking backbone.
Yes. And also vote for the person that, and the most important is your actual immediate representatives, and vote for the person that is cracking open fraud and things like that, because that's the only way we're going to ever have a change. If everybody just keeps staying, that's always in this rat cycle, and they can't get out either.
Yeah.
Because their job and their livelihood and all this depends on this scam to continue, which is why new people need to come in, for sure. Well, it was so great talking to you. I mean, it's dark shit, but at least we can
it's all over the
sometimes
map.
laugh a little bit about it. No, we covered a lot. Duggars, Zorro Ranch, Virginia.
Candace,
Erica Kirk, Ghislaine. I mean, this Juicy Crimes. Thank you.